This is how you should bet every wild card weekend game. Welcome, football fans, iron gamblers, and all of my degenerates. It's Mitch here with my wild card weekend best bets. The spread or the total, which is the better look in every wild card matchup. If you are pumped for some playoff football and you are ready to make some money, Gronk, spike the like button and don't be a jabroni. Subscribe to the channel for weekly playoff picks and best bets here on Money Mitch, where my goal is to make you rich before the Super Bowl. Hopefully, right? But if it takes till the Super Bowl and after the Super Bowl, we're gonna get it done. Let's break down every wild card game. My favorite bet for the spread or the total, sticking to spreads and totals in this video. I will also be releasing my last minute best bets, which I do every week, where we're going to dive into player props. We're going to dive into team totals, win margins, everything in between, guys, teasers, okay? But this is spread or total. What should you bet? Because I know a lot of you guys like to play the spreads. I know a lot of you guys like to play totals. So let's kick it off with the first matchup. And I'm looking to go in order here. It's not in order of preference, although I'll give you like my strength in the pick when I do break it down. But I've thought a lot about these picks. I've thought a lot about these games. I have probably done more deep research and analysis into these games, talking about them about 15 times this week in different videos. So I feel like I know what I'm talking about, okay? I feel like I know what I'm talking about. If you know what you're talking about, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know what your best bet is. But we're going to begin with the Carolina Panthers and the Los Angeles Rams. 10.5 points makes me nervous in a playoff game. I don't really want to take 10.5 with Carolina because they're clearly 10.5 point underdogs for a reason. Despite beating the Rams, I went back, watched that game. There's no way, shape, or form that game repeats. There is no chance that game happens twice this season. The Rams totally, utterly dominated that game on offense. And that is why I would prefer to go with the over 46. Now, the interesting thing about this pick is that a lot of money, and specifically bets, is on the under in this game. Now, that may have to do with the weather. There's expected to be rain, wind, and possibly even lightning in this game. But the main reason I like the over, first of all, I think the Rams might be able to score 40 points if they want to. Like, I think one of these teams could put up 40 by themselves. So whenever that's the case, I do typically like an over. At the same time, I see an avenue for the Panthers, the underdog, to be able to score as well, given how the Rams are playing defense. And I think both teams can run the football in this game. The Panthers were able to do that against the Rams in the first game, and the Rams were able to do that epically well against the Panthers in the first game. And the Rams are a very good running game. Like, one of the best we've seen over the last 20, 25 years with strictly running back runs. So let's break it down. So, how do the Rams score? I think that's pretty obvious. In the first matchup, the Rams only faced 5 third downs in the entire game. Now, why did they only face 5 third downs? It's because the Panthers couldn't stop them on first or second down. That's how effectively the Rams were running the football, guys. In their Week 13 loss to the Panthers, the Rams produced a 98th percentile game based on success rate. That was the most efficient running game by any offense this season. So on first and second down, the Rams were wrecking the Panthers in the run game. This is a Rams offense that ranked first in points and yards to finish the season. And this is a Panthers defense that they like to play too high. And both of these defenses structurally, when we talk about the rain, when we talk about the weather, it's going to be interesting to see how the weather affects how these defenses play. because both of these defenses run the same base scheme. Both of them like to play 2 high safeties. They both like to play a lot of zone coverage, and they both like to rush 4. They don't like to blitz very much, and they kind of concede the run. They make you prove that you can run the ball. Well, Carolina did that in the first game, and in that game, Corum had 11.6 yards per carry. 11.6 on 7 carries. The Rams had 21 rushes for 152 yards and 7.2 yards per carry in that game. If the Rams just run the ball, they might score 28 points if they don't even throw it. That's what I'm talking about here. The Panthers are 32nd in run stop win rate this season. So I don't think that's a fluke that the Rams were able to run the ball so successfully. The Rams scored 28 points. They turned the ball over twice in the red zone against the Panthers. One was a tipped interception by Derek Brown that landed in the arms of their safety or linebacker. And the other was a fumble late in the game. So let's just say they get a field goal there each time. They might have scored a touchdown each time. They would have scored a touchdown each time, they're getting 40 points. A field goal each time, it's 34 points, right? So I'm talking about Carolina couldn't stop the Rams outside of a couple fortunate, fluky, lucky turnovers. On the other side, Carolina was able to get a pick 6, which did inflate their overall total, where they were able to score 31 points. But they still put up 24 as an offense, right? And both of the turnovers they forced were in their own end. So it wasn't like their offense greatly benefited in terms of field position from their overall defense and their defensive performance. So first and foremost, I think that the Panthers will give up the run. The Rams will be able to control the game by running the ball. And I think that will lead to not only consistency from the Rams, but also explosiveness from the Rams. The Rams are also getting back Davante Adams, who scored 2 touchdowns against the Panthers in the first game. The Panthers have 0 pass rush whatsoever. They have one of the worst pass rushes in football. The only guy that is really effective is Derek Brown. Other than that, Stafford should have plenty of time to make his reads and make his throws. And Stafford, as long as he avoids those critical mistakes, which even when he does, the game can still lead to turnovers, right? And lead to points. In fact, Stafford tends to throw more interceptions when the Rams score 24 plus points this year than when they score less than that. It just kind of is the way that Stafford plays. He's a very aggressive player. The Panthers were able to hit 3 big plays in the game against the Rams, 2 on 4th down. McMillan and Coker were both able to explode down the field. I think, though, that the Panthers can successfully throw the ball underneath, while the Rams do play, again, a lot of structure zone, a lot of too high. We've seen the Rams actually get very, very, very kind of poor pass coverage down the stretch. The Rams have been 31st in passer rating and coverage grade to wide receivers since week 13. So that's where McMillan and Coker could really thrive once again in this game. The Rams also have a pretty weak special teams. So punter Ethan Evans, he's 30th in net punt yards per game. So that could lead to maybe better field position for the Panthers to help the weaker offense push this total over. The Rams also give up 16 yards per punt, which is also the most in the NFL. So the Rams give up a lot of yards per punt. They don't punt the ball extremely well. The Panthers, if the Rams punt at all, they might be able to lead that into good field position. They've been weak in the secondary. We've seen the Rams concede some points lately. 4 consecutive games where the Rams have allowed 20, 27, 38, and 34. And the way I'm looking at it is, if the Panthers can score 20 points in this game, this is going over. Because I almost guarantee the Rams are scoring 30 points. Even if the Panthers score 17, I think this game probably goes over 46. If the Panthers are able to get 17 points at home in a playoff game against a team they scored 31 against, 24 offensive points the first time around, this is going to go over. Like I said, 34, 38, 27, and 20, the last 4 games for the Rams defense. The Rams are getting back their nickel corner, who is a good football player in Lake, but I don't know if that's enough to really truly shift how poorly their perimeter corners have played. And in the run game last time, the Panthers proved a formula of success. They ran the ball 40 times for 164 yards with Hubbard, Dowdle, and Bryce Young. The Rams overall as a rush defense have been mediocre, especially as of late. They're 19th in rush yards per attempt. They also get back the Panthers on the offensive line, maybe their best run blocker, Robert Hunt, who is a Pro Bowl level guard. The Panthers have a good matchup on their offensive line. They have a behemoth-sized offensive line. They're very powerful, big. They can move you in the run game. The Rams' defensive line is primarily smaller, playing with quickness. And I think the Panthers are going to be able to hold their pass blocks, give Bryce Young some time to create, and also I think that they're going to be able to push the pile forward for conversions on 3rd and short, 4th and short, and just overall run the football for a fairly successful rate. I think the Panthers will be able to do what they did in the first game by running the ball, play action boots with Bryce Young's little legs, and screen passes getting to the edge. The Rams linebackers aren't very good. Their defense overall isn't very fast. And the Panthers were able to go 3 for 3 on 4th down in the first game, 7 for 15 on 3rd down in the first game. And like I mentioned with the Rams, they didn't even face 3rd downs. So the Rams are going to be able to do whatever they want. They have Puka Nacua. They have Devontae Adams. They can run the ball at will. When they can run the ball, the Rams are basically unstoppable. It sets up their play action. It sets up their play action screen game. It sets up everything, the shots downfield for Devontae Adams. McVay gets in his bag. Bryce was highly effective in the first game, 15 for 23 touchdowns. And the Panthers, they're just not a very good defense. As long as you don't turn the ball over on them, 31st on 3rd down. If the Rams do reach 3rd down, as I mentioned, they're poor against the run overall. They don't really have the solutions for Puka Nacua. J.C. Horn is back for this game. Michael Jackson's played pretty well, but this is the number 1 offense in the Rams in the NFL. I'd be genuinely shocked, regardless of the weather, if the Rams do not score at least 27 points. And even if they don't score 30, which I think is very likely in this game because of how effective they'll be able to run the football, I think that the Panthers are still going to be able to score 17 plus, which should be able to put this game over 46. So yes, a little bit of a worry about the rain and the wind, but nothing about this game suggests that either defense should truly be able to shut down either offense. The Panthers proved a formula that they could move the ball on the Rams in the first game. The Rams defense has only regressed since then. The Panthers are getting back a key offensive lineman. They are at home, and the Rams are just a great offense that should be able to control the game at the line of scrimmage. So that's why I like the over in Carolina and LA. In the next game, Saturday night, we have the Packers and the Bears. I also like the over. So for anyone that loves overs, your day to me is Saturday. Now, also, watch out for the weather. This game is expected to be very cold, but there isn't expected to be snow early in the day, but not at night, which is when the game will be played. First and foremost, one of these two matchups did go over 45. 28-21 in Green Bay, 28-21 when Jordan Love played all 4 quarters. I do bring that up because Jordan Love got hurt in the second matchup. Malik Willis was forced into the game. Not that Malik Willis played poorly, but what changes for the Packers when Willis plays is they run the ball an outrageous amount. Willis himself had 10 carries in the game for 44 yards, but Love only played about a quarter and about 8 minutes. So he played about a quarter and a half of the game in the second game. He had 13 attempts in that quarter and a half. So a lot of pass attempts. Pass attempts leads to explosive plays, leads to, less time being eaten on the clock, right? Slows the game down. Well, when you run the ball, it speeds the game up. Willis only had 11 attempts for the entirety of the rest of the game, from the last half of the second through overtime, right? They also got a possession in overtime, if I'm not mistaken. So there's going to be more pass attempts with Jordan Love playing quarterback than Malik Willis. There's going to be less of a running game, that LaFleur's going to want to lean into. Then the next point is that LaFleur and Ben Johnson are the coaches here. So we've got two of the best play callers in the league. And I think two defenses that struggle to get pressure with four men and struggle to stop the run. So the Packers without Micah Parsons and Devontae Wyatt are without their best edge rusher and their best D tackle when it comes to getting to the quarterback. The Bears have an elite offensive line for my money, specifically an elite interior. Caleb is going to have time to make plays, to scramble around and make some extension, big explosive plays. The Bears should also be able to run the ball. The Packers' run defense since week 12 has been one of the worst in the NFL. 48% success rate since week 12 on handoffs. So that means running back runs. They are 31st, second worst in the NFL. We saw what the Ravens were able to do to them. We even saw what Tyler Snoop Huntley was able to slice them up in Green Bay. Now the Packers are on the road, where they've been a much worse defense all season long compared to at home. The Bears defensively are also terrible against the run. 29th in yards per attempt, 27th in rush yards. Emmanuel Wilson had a very nice game in the second matchup. Malik Willis was able to run the ball, Josh Jacobs. And when we look at the weapons for both sides, Josh Jacobs is now healthy. He's had rest, time to get ready, time to be rested. Christian Watson, same thing. Romeo Doubs, Jalen Reed, right? They're all rested. They're all ready. They're all good to go. Now, Tucker Kraft's out, but Zach Tom is in. Right tackle of the Packers, their best offensive lineman, is back to help protect from Montez Sweat on one of the edges, Austin Booker on the other. So, healthy weapons, healthy Jordan Love, I think, healthy Josh Jacobs, two offensive play callers. On the Bears side, Rome Odunze is healthy, which means now the Bears have all their healthy weapons. Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, DJ Moore, Colston Loveland, who I expect to have a big game. You continue to look at some of these stats. Bears not only are bad against the run, they're 28th in net yards per attempt passing the ball, pass defense. We saw what the Lions were able to do, picking apart the middle of the field against their zones, just absolutely shredding them in the cold. The Niners did the same thing, constant in-breaking routes to Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, George Kittle, etc. So we saw a formula for the 49ers and the Lions laying out a blueprint for how to attack this team. The Packers are going to be able to replicate that with Jordan Love back at quarterback, with all his healthy weapons. I think Christian Watson has a huge game. He typically does eat against the Bears with like over 4 yards per route run when he faces them. He had 2 touchdowns in the first matchup. When the Bears try to be more aggressive, which I think they might to try and get some more stops, because a big problem for the Bears in the second game was how much time of possession the Packers ate up by running the ball. I think the Bears will be more aggressive, which will actually lead to more explosive downfield and quicker drives for the Packers, which might also lead to more points, right? And then for the Bears are an excellent running team. They're second in running back success. They're 5th in weighted DVOA when running the football. They're 3rd in yards per run. So they can really run the ball. As I mentioned, the Packers defense can't stop the run, 31st versus running back since week 12. Their overall defense from week 9 to week 17 is 25th in EPA, 29th versus the pass. They're 28th in sack rate. They can't stop the pass. They can't stop the run. It's not a good unit right now. Caleb also is a guy that loves to throw the ball down the middle of the field. He's 4th in most attempts when attempting in-breaking routes to the middle of the field, with facing a Packers defense that is dead last against this statistic. They're 32nd in dropback EPA against middle of the field in-breaking routes. They've allowed 13 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So overall, I'm not sure how that second game actually ended up going under. The only reason I can suggest is it was extremely windy to the degree where it affected the football. Second, there was a fumble in the red zone by the Packers. Third, the Packers were 0 for 5 in the red zone in that game. And I generally and genuinely expect more points from the Bears in this game, just from a better game plan from big game Ben Johnson. So the second game, Packers-Bears, I like over. That is over 45. Philadelphia and San Francisco. I would consider playing the Niners at +6 now that we're at another key number move here. The Niners keep becoming bigger and bigger underdogs, which to me, I understand why the Niners are getting so many points because of the injuries. But the Eagles are not a very good team. So I don't really know if and they're not a very explosive or high scoring team, which is why I do like the under 44.5. But you could also equally sell me on the Niners +6. I just don't know if the Eagles can beat a decent team by margin, a team that might significantly outcoach them as well. But let's break down why I do like the under. Okay, so the Eagles' offense, first of all, is not a good unit. It's a bottom 10 unit in the league. And I think because the game is in Philly, the game plays more towards the Eagles' style of play. They're also the favorite in the game, so that also dictates how the game may be played. The Eagles' offense is 19th in points per game, 24th in yards, 24th on third down, and first in 3 and outs in the NFL. Meaning they punt the ball the most, 3 plays and punt, the most in the league. They are not a good offense. They also rank 22nd in success rate at 42%. They're just not a good offense, period. We've also seen bad defenses stop them. We've seen defenses like Dallas contain them to 24 points. We've seen defenses like Chicago, allow only 15 points in Philadelphia towards the Eagles. Buffalo, who I think is an overrated defense, only allowed 13 points against the Eagles, right? Detroit held them to 16. Green Bay held them to 10. A lot of these games have gone under. If you're looking at the flip side of that, Philadelphia, they've actually gone under 44.5 in 6 of their last 8 games. They have gone under at home in every single one of those games. So this game is in Philly, under against Detroit, under against Chicago, under against, all those teams since the bye week. The only games that have actually gone over 44.5 are I think the Cowboys and all right, Philly scored 21 against Dallas. Did I say 24? 21, not even 24. Okay, then also, 45 in Dallas, and then Washington in Washington also went over. So 2 divisional games on the road. And the Washington game, Josh Johnson, garbage time, bunch of weird stuff. But the Eagles primarily, though, are mostly really well structured to stop the Niners, which would be the worry about a game going over, is if Kyle Shanahan can crack the code of the Eagles defense. Because then maybe that would force the Eagles out of their shell to unlocking more in their passing game. But the Eagles defense is second in passer rating allowed, first in touchdowns allowed, first in completion percentage allowed. They don't blitz a lot, which is a good thing against the 49ers and Brock Purdy. They like to get pressure with 4. They do have a dominant interior pass rush led by Jalen Carter to get there on Brock Purdy. They have 2 dominant all-pro corners in Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. They are excellent against tight ends, the best team against tight ends in the NFL, number 1 against tight ends, so that slows down George Kittle, you would think in theory. Then, also, in terms of in-breaking routes, the Eagles are the best in the NFL. They're actually allowing a 51.9% completion percentage on in-breaking routes, which is the lowest mark in 10 seasons. Brock Purdy was 6th best in terms of these throws and the second highest rate. Also, Mac Jones was at the top as well. So, Mac Jones, Brock Purdy, the Niners offense, they love in-breaking routes. Brock Purdy isn't as good throwing the ball to the outside. The biggest weakness on the Eagles defense is Adoree Jackson. And Ricky Pearsall is looking like he might be out. So it's one of the receivers that might be able to expose Adoree Jackson, might not even be playing in this game. So really, it's about Christian McCaffrey stopping the Niners from running the ball. But even then, both of these teams want to run the ball, grind the clock, and go on long possessions. The Niners want to do that so that they're able to get control of the game and they're able to keep their weak defensive personnel off the field and not allow Philly to do the exact same thing. Because we know how Philly wants to play. We know Philly wants to run the ball against this Niners defense. We know that Philly wants to go on long, deliberate, controlling, meticulous drives where they wear down the defense. And they love to just milk the clock and wait till the last second to snap the football. That's exactly how Philly plays, especially in the playoffs. The Niners also are first on third down offensively. The Eagles are kind of weak in that category defensively. They're 21st. The reason I bring that up is not because it greatly benefits the over. It actually could be a good thing for the under, because that means that the Niners might be going first and second down run-heavy script, which will lead to third and manageables, and the Niners might lean into their success on third down to be able to extend drives. The Eagles are also weak against quarterback scrambles, which Brock Purdy's pretty good of a scrambler. He can manage to get outside the pocket on third down. So just talking about those extension of long drives. So I expect both teams to play time of possession, and that's also going to lead to less points. When we're also talking about Philadelphia's offense, I think the key area where they need to be successful to win this game is by running the ball with Saquon. The problem is that Saquon has not been very efficient this year. They are 23rd as a team in rushing yards per attempt, and Saquon has only gone over 4 yards per carry in 6 games. 2 of them were against the Giants, the worst run defense in football, the Commanders, who are terrible, the Broncos because of a lack of attempts, and the Chargers because of one run, really, on a 4th down. Other than that, they didn't go over 4 yards per carry. So Saquon and the Eagles have struggled to run the football. Jalen Hurts constantly goes 3 and out because he's erratic and inconsistent as an offense. And Philadelphia has had moments where they haven't even thrown for a yard in the second half. They've had 2 games against Tampa and against Buffalo where they haven't even been able to throw the ball, and they've still, greatly been affected by offense and not been able to score. And then I'll just leave you with this in terms of this stat. Bucky Brooks, not even a stat, a quote. Bucky Brooks from NFL.com. I just thought he put it really, really well in terms of how Philadelphia looks on offense. This is probably the best matchup the Niners could have because offensively, the Eagles, for a lack of a better word, have been yuck. They've been terrible on offense. They're bad to watch. They're not exciting. I mean, this offense is... I watched them play against the Bills a couple weeks ago, and I think they had 19 yards in the second half. They cannot move the football. So, point blank period, many people expect the Eagles to dominate this game. But in order for them to dominate this game, that would mean that they're going to have to play great defense because their offense is simply not good enough to win by margin and simply not good enough for them to just destroy a team as well coached as the 49ers. The 49ers are significantly outgunned in this game, but they will do their best to stop Saquon on defense, and they'll do their best on offense to possess the ball and go on long, meticulous drives, converting against this very good Eagles defense. Overall, I don't know if either of these teams score 20 points. I like the under big time, under 44.5, but I also think taking the points with the Niners isn't a poor play either. Okay, let's go to the Patriots game, which New England we haven't talked about the Jacksonville Jags and the Buffalo Bills. I guess I skipped over that game. That's my apologies, but we'll talk about that one next. Jacksonville versus Buffalo. I like Jacksonville on the money line. Let's keep this simple, stupid. I like Jacksonville on the money line. The Bills are 2-3 against good teams this season. I would categorize Jacksonville as a good team. Buffalo is also weaker on the road. They are much more dominant at home. They are 5-3 on the road this year, including some losses to some bad football teams like Miami and Atlanta. The Bills haven't won a road playoff game in 33 years, and I think there is something to that. Josh Allen is also 0-4 and 0-4 ATS on the road in the playoffs, although most of those games came against the Chiefs, to be fair. Okay, but what I really like Jacksonville is I think Jacksonville has more avenues to win this game, and I think they're a more complete overall football team. I think the biggest reason is I think Buffalo's defense is super overrated. When you look at Buffalo and who they've played and the teams that I would categorize as a good offensive team and a bad offensive team, their splits are drastic. So let's just go through it. I did the math myself here. So when they played teams like New England with Drake May, Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield, Miami with Mike McDaniel and Tua, who they played in both games, Kansas City, Atlanta with Bijan, and I think it was Michael Penix in that game, and then Baltimore. So, at least average to, good offenses, I would say Baltimore with Lamar in week 1, Kansas City with Mahomes, May with New England, and then Burrow with Cincinnati especially. They allowed 40, 21, 23, 24, 21, 30, 32, 34, and 31. So they allowed 30 plus in 5 games, and they allowed at least 21 in every single one of those games against respectable level offenses. That's an average of 28.4 points per game allowed. 28.4. Okay? Now, against teams that suck on offense, the Jets 2 times. The Saints with Rattler, not Shuck. The Texans with Davis Mills. Pittsburgh, in Pittsburgh. Cleveland with Shedeur Sanders. Philly, and Carolina. So those are the teams I categorize as below average offenses. 10, 19, 9, 23, 7, 20, 13, and 8. The 23-point performance, I think, was against New Orleans. That's 13.6 points per game. So their defense has drastic splits. A split of 2 touchdown difference when they play a respectable quarterback and a respectable offense versus a bad offense, like an outright bad offense. Now, I would say that Jacksonville is much closer to New England or Cincinnati on offense than they are to the Cleveland Browns, okay? That's the way I would put it, right? Because when you look at Jacksonville's offense, well, they have 1 interception, Trevor Lawrence does, over his last 6 games. They've scored 25-plus points in 9 of their last 10 games. Parker Washington has been a stud, 87 yards in 3 straight games. They have been a top 5 offense in passing success rate since Jacoby Myers joined the team. Even, you're looking at Trevor Lawrence, he's been like an MVP candidate down the stretch. So just that one stat, 25-plus points in 9 out of 10, okay? And then you look at Jacksonville's defense and how they match up against Buffalo. Jacksonville's run defense is the best in football, number 1 in yards allowed. They have yet to allow a running back to rush for 75-plus yards this year. No other team has done that. They're also 4th in yards per rush against. Okay, so the Bills have the number 1 rushing attack. They have the number 1 rusher in James Cook, but the Jags have the number 1 run defense, thanks to really athletic linebackers and Trayvon Walker, Devon Hamilton, and a stout front. They don't allow you to run the ball. Jacksonville's defense, passing-wise, though, is still pretty good statistically. I don't know if they're quite that good. They lost Jordan Lewis. I think there are some weaknesses against tight ends. There are some things to look at in Jacksonville's pass defense. But the thing is, right, they are ranked 3rd in EPA and top 3 also in success rate, guys. So there is I think that Jacksonville's a little overrated because of who they've played quarterback-wise, like Brady Cook and Riley Leonard, etc. There are some weaknesses, but I would say that the primary reason you need to like Jacksonville here is because their offense is awesome and good offenses have scored against Buffalo. Number 2, Jacksonville can stop the run, which Buffalo needs to do to be able to win games, period. They need to be able to run the ball because their receivers are awful. Jacksonville's weakness might be their secondary, and Buffalo doesn't have any receivers. Their best weapon right now is probably Dalton Kincaid. He's kind of banged up. After that, it's Brandon Cooks at 35 years old. I mean, they don't have great separator or really downfield weapons to throw the ball to. Jacksonville is also an excellent blitzing team. And because Buffalo has no real threats on the perimeter, Jacksonville will be able to blitz on 3rd down. They are 1st in interception rate when they blitz. They're also 1st in EPA when they blitz. So Jacksonville doesn't blitz a lot. They do have 2 effective edge rushers with athleticism, Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen. They can get there, as well as Eric Armstead on the inside. But when they do blitz, it might be very effective. Also, kicker battle. The Bills have been cutting and re-signing kickers all year. Matt Prater, he's 100 years old. Cam Little is the best kicker in the league right now. He can kick from 65 yards. So there's huge advantage in a game-winning situation where Jacksonville might need to get 15 yards to kick a game-winning field goal in this game. So that's also that when you're looking at a money line bet. And then you look at Buffalo's run defense, which I think is really critical. So Jacksonville has a huge run battle edge. They can stop the run against Buffalo's top rushing offense. But Buffalo can't stop the run. They're 30th in yards per carry. They're 31st in DVOA. They're 28th in explosive runs. They're 30th in yards per carry. Okay? So, the Jags, when I look deeper, because Jacksonville hasn't been running the ball all that well lately. They've been one of the worst teams running the ball. But they've played a lot of elite run defenses. The Raiders, 4th in yards per carry allowed, surprisingly. Houston, 7th. Indy is 2nd. They played them twice. Denver is 3rd. So that's 5 games where they've played top 7 run defenses, okay? And then the other games where they haven't been running it well, they ran it decently well against Arizona, just not a lot of attempts. Tennessee with Simmons on the inside and Devondre Sweat are really good as a run defense. They're a lot better than Buffalo's. They're 17th compared to Buffalo's 30th, but a lot of that year they didn't have Jeffrey Simmons. With Jeffrey Simmons, I kind of feel like they're more closer to the top 10. The Jets, 23rd, which is kind of the one bad run defense I would say that they faced that they didn't really run the ball well against. But that game, Trevor Lawrence had 5 passing touchdowns and 330 yards. So Jacksonville has been moving the ball through the air so well that they haven't really been able to run the ball or really want to run the ball. But in this game, I think they will. And I think that Liam Cohen, I just have a lot of confidence in his run game design. We saw it in Tampa last year. We saw it early in the year with Jacksonville with Travis Etienne. Before Trevor really got cooking, they were a run football team. They were a defensive team. I think they get back to that in this game. And I think that run leads to big plays down the field for Jacksonville throwing the ball, because Buffalo is going to concede the run until Jacksonville can prove that they can run it. That's going to set up those big plays, okay? So that's why I like Jacksonville money line. I think they're the better team. They've got a hot quarterback. They're at home. Buffalo is weaker on the road. They're weak on the road historically. The run game battle, and I just think Jacksonville has more weapons. Jacksonville has a better pass rush. Jacksonville has less defensive weaknesses. I think there's a lot of reasons to like Jacksonville. I think they are the better team in this game. Now let's get to New England and Los Angeles, okay? I like New England minus 3.5 if you guys haven't figured that out yet. New England, first of all, is a lot healthier now. I think a lot of people have been watching New England like, I can't wait to fade them. They haven't played anyone good, blah, blah, blah. First of all, I don't know if the Chargers are good. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't know if the Chargers are actually that good. Second of all, the Patriots are healthy. And despite, not being healthy, they were able to get a huge lead against Buffalo, a favorite against Jacksonville, the hottest team in the league this week. And they were able to, a massive lead, by the way, which they kind of choked away. And then they were able to beat a Baltimore team, which the week later demolished a playoff Packer team. So just throwing that out there. But the Patriots are healthy. And this was, they were doing this without Spillane, without Will Campbell, without Milton Williams. Harold Landry was injured for parts of these games. So New England was actually up on Buffalo 3 scores without these players. They beat Baltimore without these players. So even some of the stiffer competition. And then when these players were playing, they were demolishing everybody. And they looked like, that New England's played nobody. But they're all back now. So Spillane is back at linebacker, who's their best linebacker. Milton Williams is their best, most important defensive player. He completely changes their run defense. And he is a very good pass rusher. Harold Landry is their best edge rusher, probably. Caleb Chason is good too. He might be a better pass rusher. Landry's a better overall player. And then you've got Will Campbell, who's their left tackle and 4th overall pick, and he's pretty important for protecting Drake May. And then, they might be missing Tonga, but that's really it. But there's a couple of key matchups that I think New England is going to take advantage of, where the Chargers are weak. And I think New England, as a more complete team with less weaknesses, is going to be able to expose. So the Chargers, their offensive line is really bad. They are 32nd in pass block win rate. They are 32nd in PFF pass blocking grade. They allow the 2nd most sacks in the league. They have the highest pressure rate allowed. New England is not seen as a dominant pass rush, but they are 10th in pressure rate. And Christian Barmore and Milton Williams are number 2 and 3 in interior defensive line pressure rate. So I think they're going to get to Herbert through the interior. And Landry and Chason are both athletic, quick, and good enough to contain Herbert on the edges. And I think Vrabel, as a former edge rusher himself, he's going to put together a good plan of how to get to Herbert, how to contain him, how to twist and stunt and affect his rhythm. And I think that could lead to turnovers, lead to a lot of sacks, and a lot of drive-ending plays. Okay, that's first and foremost. So pressure on Herbert, I think, will be there constantly. Then you have the other side of the football, where the Chargers are seen as an elite pass defense. And I wouldn't disagree with that for one single second. Now, they are playing Drake May and the Patriots offense, who are first in EPA on offense this year, better than the Rams. 2nd in points per game, only below the Rams, and 3rd in yards per game. They have scored 24 plus points in 12 straight games. I would just put it this way. If the Patriots score 24 points like they have in 12 straight games, they're going to win. Period. That's first of all. Second, they have a really good zone-beating team, which the Chargers are a zone-heavy team. Drake May is the strongest quarterback against zone this year, ranking first in EPA and fourth in passer rating when facing the zone looks. They have two weapons that are top 5 against zone. Stephon Diggs, top 5, 5th against zone in yards per route run. Hunter Henry, second at tight end, former Charger, against zone. The Chargers are also 24th against tight ends. So look for Hunter Henry to have a pretty good game, and that is their number 1 zone-beating player. Throwing that out there. Okay, so passing-wise, the Patriots still should have some success because May is very, very smart, very consistent, and very accurate. Also, the Chargers don't have a great pass rush. It's okay. I wouldn't say it's great or anything like that. So May should have time. He can also scramble and gain some yards here and there when he needs to. I think he picked up like the most first downs with his legs, or he was up there. Like, I think he had like 60 something first downs running the ball. But then you have the run game, which I think is more important here. The Patriots run game is quietly very good. Like, since week 7, they're top 10 in rush EPA. In the first 6 weeks, they were terrible. They couldn't run the ball to save their lives. Since week 7, top 10. Since week 10, third. Ramondre Stevenson looks great. Take it from a Patriots fan. He looks phenomenal lately. Travion Henderson has been super explosive. Maybe the most explosive running back in the league over the back half of the season. You guys have seen the highlights, right? And you look at who the Chargers have played running the football. And the Chargers have not really been exposed for their run defense, which is 18th in the NFL in yards per attempt allowed. It's their weakness defensively, right? It's closer to like below average. The Raiders, twice, who can't run the ball. The Vikings, who can't run the ball. The Chiefs, twice, who can't run the ball. Pittsburgh, Tennessee, Denver, twice, Houston. Like, these teams, like, they haven't really faced a team that can run the ball as well as New England. Really in a long, long time. I would make an argument that the Patriots might be the best running team in their current form that the Chargers have played all season. So the Patriots can expose both of the biggest weaknesses of the Chargers. On top of that, they're just maybe the most complete team in the AFC. And I think the reason that the spread is so low is because that people look at the strength of schedule. And even like statistics like DVOA, it's hard to calculate how good New England actually is because of the lack of competition they have played. But they have passed basically every test that they could pass. And the Chargers, to me, they've been a fadeable team all year. Like, the best team they played down the stretch was Jacksonville. And Jacksonville beat them by like 28 points, 29 points. It was like 35-6. If the Patriots get ahead in this game and they run the football in this game, I don't see them looking back. I see them dominating. I think New England covers the spread 3.5. I think New England wins by at least 7 here. I think they win by around 10. I would say like 27-17 feels about right, but I think 7 to 10 range, I wouldn't be surprised at all. So I think New England is totally legit. And you guys, of course, take it with a grain of salt because I'm a Patriots fan, but I'm just looking at what I've seen all year and what I've seen from the Chargers recently, which they're not a very good team. They also struggle to run the ball too. So like 28th in success rate since week 10 running the ball, and Hampton's hurt. I don't even know if Hampton's going to play. So yeah, I just think New England is the much better team here. And let's finish it off on Monday night with the Texans. I think the Texans -3 is the play. It does scare me. The trends scare me a little bit, but I'm just looking at the football here. And I think the Texans, I don't see a world where they allow more than 17 points. And I don't see a world where the Steelers really like dictate this game through their offense, which I think is how they've been winning games. If you look at how they played against Miami, how they played against Detroit, how they played against Baltimore, by the way, all teams that are much worse than Houston, but all games that I would say Steelers offensively able to run it, able to control the clock, able to control possession, able to go on long drives. Aaron Rodgers was able to control the game. You can't do that against the Texans defense. They're just too good. They're honestly just too good. When you look at the Texans, they have won 9 straight games. They are a defense that can play man-to-man and shut the Steelers down like the Browns did. They have one of the best pass rushes in football. They have a run defense that I wouldn't say is elite, but it's not anything but good. I mean, they're top 7, I believe, in yards per carry allowed. They're top 10 in every run defensive metric. It's not like you can really just line up and run the ball on them. They have outrageous speed, ferociousness, physicality. Stingley or Lassiter can match up with DK Metcalf. They have excellent tackling from their linebackers, Jalen Petrie at safety. They have ball hawks like Bullock in the back end. They've got guys that can get to the quarterback like Hunter and Anderson. To me, they're the most complete defense in the league from an overall shutdown, swarming standpoint. And Pittsburgh likes to get rid of the ball fast. To me, that's not going to work against Houston because Houston is very effective against short passes because they're so fast and so good at tackling that those plays don't go for yards after catch, and they're basically snuffed out completely. I don't think the Steelers are going to be able to move and bully the Texans because other than DK Metcalf beating them down the field, I don't think there's any competent passing threat that Houston will be worried about. So I think they can honestly just go in and stop the run and then focus on, affecting Aaron Rodgers as a passer, getting some pressure on him. And when you look at who the Steelers have played recently, they haven't played a lot of teams that can really get to the quarterback like Houston can. So there's not a lot of stats for this, but Rodgers against man coverage is 32nd in first downs per attempt. He's 31st in throws over the middle. He's 33rd in success rate. He's 23rd in net yards per attempt. He's 23rd in EPA. So if the Texans do lean into man-to-man, which they definitely can do with Stingley and Lassiter, that would be a great approach. They do tend to play man. They do tend to play a lot of quarters. But DeMeco Ryans, he has his defense on fire. And in every big game they've played, the Chargers and the Bills stand out. They've been so good on defense. The Chiefs also stand out. Like, even on the road, they've been very, very good on defense this year in big games. So it seems like the games that they actually play their worst, it's the games that they don't really care, like the Raiders, for example, like games that don't really threaten them. You know what I'm saying? But in the games that have been high-profile primetime games, they have really come to play. And I expect that to happen again. I just don't know an avenue in which the Steelers consistently move the ball. And given Pittsburgh, Boswell's a great kicker, but it could be really windy. It could be really cold. Like Boswell missed an extra point last week. Who knows what the kicking conditions could be there? Then you have the other side of the ball, which is why I feel confident betting on the Texans. There's a couple of stats that I really like that help the Texans. Now, I don't love the Texans offensive line, and I don't love the matchup against the Steelers front seven. I do think the Texans are going to struggle to move the ball on the ground, and I do think that there will be times the Texans take bad sacks, and there will be pressure from Pittsburgh. As long as it doesn't result in multiple catastrophic turnovers, I think the Texans should be fine. Now, there's some really good stats for the Texans. The Steelers play the 5th most man coverage in the league, 37.2%. CJ Stroud against man coverage. He's 5th in passer rating, 9th in yards per attempt, 9th in touchdowns, and 5th in EPA per dropback. It's an elite quarterback against man coverage. So that's one thing. Second, the Steelers are really bad against middle of the field, inside the numbers throws. CJ Stroud is really good. He's 3rd in completion percentage. He's 3rd in pass yards per attempt. He's 10th in grade. And when you look at the Steelers, they're 30th in coverage grade. They're 28th in yards per attempt. So middle of the field throws. Then you complement that by how tight ends play against Pittsburgh. Dalton Schultz had 82 receptions this year. The Steelers are the worst in the league against tight ends. And then on top of that, you have Nico Collins, who I don't really think there's a matchup on Pittsburgh. Jalen Ramsey's too slow. Joey Porter's probably also too slow. But I just kind of feel like Nico Collins is going to beat either one of those guys in one-on-one situations. So I love the matchup for Dalton Schultz. I love the matchup for the middle of the field for Stroud to be successful, especially off of play action, where they're going to suck those linebackers up. And I do think that one team can play significantly better, tighter man coverage than the Steelers. And the Steelers have also allowed a lot of explosives. We saw Zay Flowers hit 2 of them last week for massive touchdowns. I think if the Texans hit 2 of those plays in this game, the game's over. I think if the Texans score 20 points, they're going to win and they're going to cover. So ultimately, Houston is too good on defense. Rodgers is really going to struggle to get a rhythm, and he's going to be under a lot of pressure. I think that Houston is going to just slowly beat down the Steelers. And I think the Steelers defense has been overrated pretty much all year. Also, when it comes to the Texans offensive line, they're not catastrophic like they were last year. They're actually 22nd in pass block grade. They're like closer to like the 25th best offensive line, which isn't like absolutely horrible, than they are to 31-32 like the Chargers. So Houston -3 is the final best bet of the video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, Gronk spike the like button. It's Mitch. Let's make some money. Let's go. Subscribe to the channel, and good luck. Peace.